Joe the Salty Man Pyfer took to the media day with high energy as usual. And of course, I mean, it's always to be expected with Joe Pyfer. He was a little bit salty, okay? And I think he may have just called me out. And I'm going to show you the clip. What I mean by calling me out, he didn't actually name drop me. Someone asked him in the comments on this clip that was posted from his media day, is this guy talking about Lucas Tracy? He says, bing, bing. And the context behind all of this is that I made a tier list titled The Saltiest Fighters in the UFC. And Joe Pyfer made the S tier. All right. So this is what he had to say.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I'm salty, bro. I feel like a lot of people have thrown shade at my team, so fuck you guys. And there's one fucking nerd out here that does media, and he said I always have a bad attitude, so I would love to smack that dude in his fucking face.
First of all, I mean, how ironic is it to say, yeah, I'm salty, and there's this nerd in the media, I would love to smack him in his fucking face in the Philly accent. And the only things I said about Joe Pyfer was that he was salty. I mean, God forbid I put him on the friggin' salty fighters tier list. I had him in the S tier, as I said, for a fucking reason. Okay? I'm not discrediting this guy's skills. I'm not going at this man personally. I've just made a simple observation that anyone in their right mind would be able to see if they're listening to a Joe Pyfer interview. The interviews are great. The energy that this guy's bringing, it's awesome, man. It's going to get people to tune in. It's going to get people emotionally invested. You're not going to get a lukewarm Joe Pyfer interview.
Joe said, you shouldn't want to be another person, but it rubbed everybody the wrong way. Suck it. Suck it long and hard, brother. That's all I got to say, because I'm me, and you guys want to be me. Fuck you. So
he's going to fucking lay the law down. He's going to let you know what's going on. And that's fine. That's great. It makes this sport entertaining. People are going to talk about it, though. And you know what? If someone's in the room and they're blasting off and they've just got off a shift at the salt mines, I mean, goodness gracious. Good luck hiding it.
Bro, you have no idea how frustrating it is sometimes being in my position. And I'm not somebody that says this to be funny. I know it comes off as funny, and I'll probably fucking laugh when my coach watches it because he's going to be like, you're nuts. But, bro, somebody always discredits you, and that's something just from the heart. It's like I got to get used to, you know what I mean? So many people talk shit, and I rarely get hate messages at all.
Again, this whole discredit thing, like I've said that this man is going to be a champion. I actually don't know if I've said that. I said that he has potential to be a champion. I've said that Joe Pyfer's going to run through Jack Hermanson. I've said that this guy's entertaining. And if you can't take someone saying, yeah, he seems a little bit salty, if that's like the worst, most blasphemous thing someone could ever say, then, oh my goodness, man. I mean, imagine if you actually critique this guy for real. And before I continue showing you guys some of the things that Pyfer had to say in today's media day, I'll just show you what I said about him in my salty tier list video. Joe Pyfer going in the S tier. Joe Pyfer is salty about everything. Doesn't matter what it is. You compliment this guy, he might slap you. Joe Pyfer is just angry at the world. And it's entertaining. He has some of the best pre-fight interviews ever. These are the two guys. These are the two leaders of the Salty Brigade. Jamal Hill, Joe Pyfer. They were cornering Brendan Allen, who's an A-tier salty man. Like, you had all three of these guys in the cage. This was like a fucking salt mine at the time when they were cornering Brendan Allen after his fight with Paul Craig. So, as you guys see, I'm just cracking some lighthearted jokes, and I'm pointing out the obvious, all right? And this is actually good for the fighters. If you were to add them to a tier list video like this, people watch these kinds of videos and they're more interested in the fighters than they were before, especially when it comes to like some up and coming prospect like Joe Pyfer that isn't the superstar that he wants to be yet. Well, the more people that know about him and the more people that know his personality and they know he's got, you know, as I said, he's got a fire under him. Well, they're going to be more interested in following his career. So what if people have a little bit of a running joke about your media days or your attitude? That's good for you. And Joe Pyfer's going to be a bigger star today than he was yesterday because of this interview, because people are going to talk about it, because it's entertaining. The last thing you want, Joe Pyfer, is to not be entertaining in the UFC where you're trying to be a superstar.
Getting this main event slot early in your career, a lot of guys have to put in a lot more time. Do you feel like, your fellow guys in the division are looking at you like, who's this guy? Why does he deserve that? Do you feel like this puts a target on you even more?
Fuck him. Why do I care? I mean, the target on my back was people discrediting Dana White saying be Joe Pyfer without understanding the message that I interpreted it as. I don't think it was be me fight-wise. It was be Joe Pyfer. The kid got turned away, broke his arm, almost 2 years out. My career was supposed to be over, okay? Over. Not fucking hurt, over.
Bro, that was the most Rich Piana type of intonation I've ever heard from someone that's not Rich Piana. The way that he says, my career was supposed to be over, not fucking hurt, over, motherfucker. If you guys know Rich Piana, he was the bodybuilding guy, passed away about 6 or 7 years ago, rest in peace. And he had the no bullshit attitude like Joe Pyfer has.
You can't? Are you fucking kidding me? You just said I can't? Like, I want to fucking bitch slap that motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? I can't. I don't have...
You can't make this stuff up. Oh, he's a little bit bitter. God forbid you pick up on that, which is just obvious upon first listen. It takes a couple of seconds to understand this guy's having a bad day. But that doesn't change the fact that this is really good.
If any. But just some of these fucking guys, bro, they just try to latch onto your nutsack like a bunch of fucking leeches just to talk about you.
Again, the whole latching onto thing, yeah, I'm pretty sure you're trying to be a superstar in the UFC. And people are going to talk about you. You're on one of the biggest platforms on earth. You're doing media in front of the world. All the MMA fans are tuning in. They're going to be able to pick up on the obvious, okay? They're going to see the attitude. It's not a bad attitude. It's just a freaking attitude. That's not a big deal. It's entertaining. I mean, it's the UFC. This is not, a league that's going to get you out of there just because, oh, hey, you got to be all, muzzled up like the baseball players that can't talk at all. But, I mean, this is just hilarious. Yeah, the media is going to be talking about the interviews. If you're entertaining and you're going to be a superstar, people will talk about you, and that's actually good for you. That's good for your superstar status. I mean, listen, this whole, people are leeching on to me. They're attaching themselves to my balls. You're trying to be a superstar in the UFC. You're doing media on one of the biggest platforms on earth. People are going to watch, and they're going to be able to take note and at least recognize something that's as obvious as this guy has a bit of an attitude, all right? It's easy to pick up on. Why that's the case, we're not talking about that necessarily. It's easy to pick up on it. It's quite obvious. But when people are going to talk about Joe Pyfer, unless you're just really shitting on this guy personally, if people are calling out his attitude and they're saying things like I've said, it's entertaining. This guy's got a fire under him, all right? He's fired up. That's a good thing. He's bringing high energy to these pressers. People want to tune in to see him fight now more than they would before. If I make a video on this guy, more people are going to take notice of him. That's what we're doing. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to grow the sport. One of my goals is to take MMA to the mainstream. And I'm not saying I'm going to be the only one doing it, but that's why I want to grow my platform so that I can one day in the future talk about MMA as a hardcore MMA fan in the mainstream. That's what I want to do. I want to have a much bigger show where I can talk about prelim fighters and breakdowns and predictions. And I'm not just going to be covering the biggest stars in the sport, like a Conor McGregor fight week. Stephen A. Smith, that's the only time he'll talk about it. I want to bring MMA to the mainstream, hardcore MMA. And listen, the more people that are talking about Joe Pyfer, the better. And this whole idea of, people are trying to discredit me. Some are, maybe. Not me, though. If you think that just calling out someone because they have a bit of a salty attitude, which is just, again, obvious, not even a bad thing. It's entertaining. The guy's bringing high energy. I'm sure he has a reason. It's still something that it's okay to talk about. You can't just ignore shit. All right? There's a reason why McGregor is such a big star. It's because of his personality. There's a reason why people are starting to be won over by Ilia Topuria in the build-up to this Volkanovski fight because he's extremely confident. Some would say delusional. Either way, they're looking at what he has to say. All right? Jamal Hill going back and forth with people on Twitter. Jamal's a bit of a hothead too. We're not allowed to talk about this, and it actually gives someone more character. It makes them seem more interesting to the fans. So as far as I'm concerned, I just think that it's ironic, all right? I hope that this guy does well this weekend, and I hope that he becomes a big star because he would be good for the sport.